Hey everyone, it's Kevin Ducey, president of Whiteboard CRM, back today with a really exciting guest on the Top Producer Spotlight. He's not a producer anymore, hasn't produced since 2010, but he is a heavyweight in the mortgage industry. My friend, Mr. Hammer Helmer. Hammer, how are you today, sir?
What's going on, Kevin? Nice to be on today. Thank you so much.
Hey, Hammer, I appreciate it. And, had the pleasure of meeting you last March, right before the world shut down. Hearing more and more of my customers are interested in your platform and the things that you're doing. So I thought it'd be great to have you on today, talk to you a little bit about, where it came from, how it got there, and maybe some tips and techniques some LOs can learn from you. And then, maybe we'll leave them with a little tease and see if we can drive some folks to look at your system and drive their business. So how's that sound to you, sir?
That sounds awesome. Thank you so much. So I've been in the business about 20 years, and I got into the origination business because I was at the time working for Electrolux. I used to sell vacuum cleaners door to door. You don't get any more sales than that, right? And I had a story from being a consumer back in the day where I was renting a condo that was a builder-owned condo. There were about 300 units, and the builder owned quite a few of them still. And the builder decided they didn't want to own anymore. And they said, okay, if you're gonna, you either need to find a new place to live, or you need to rent this condo, or you need to buy this condo. And anyway, I had a bad experience with the mortgage guy, but I got saved by an even cooler mortgage guy named Mike Spinetta. And Mike saved my bacon. He got my deal done, and he got us in that condo in 1998. So 2000, I went back to him and I said, hey man, my wife wants a house and I need a new, I need a loan. And I was your dream client, because I'm like, hey, I don't care what the rate is. I just want to make sure I can get a new house. Like I was great. And Mike's like, he's looking at my pay stubs and he's like, hey man, you're making less money. And I said, oh, they put me on a new comp plan. I have to work twice as hard. I make half as much. And so he offered me a job. And that was actually how I got into the mortgage business. And what's funny is, 2020 is a year of refinances. And when I got in 2000, it was a very similar scenario. We were taking people from rates in the 9s and the 10s, or, down into the 7s at the time. And I got in my first loan. I actually did a loan for somebody that I sold the vacuum cleaner to and refinanced her on the same sales call. Took her application and everything. It was a very different business back then. So I originated for 10 years and I worked for Mike Spinetta for most of that time, but we changed companies 5 times in those 10 years. We were at the time, he had actually started with Gateway Funding when they were brand new, and he was a net branch. And then we were at Countrywide and then GMAC Mortgage. And then through the 07, 08 era, when things really started to crumble around us, we were at a small lender called Globe Mortgage America. And they were just a real tiny, outfit of a correspondent lender. And that was when the mortgage implosion happened and I lost everything, went broke, and, our phones got shut off. Everything happened there. And I rebuilt because there was nowhere else I was going to go get a job that I could make even still what I was making originating. And I started working for a broker. And anyway, in 2010, I took a position as director of business development for a mortgage company out in California called First Priority Financial. And the guy that owned that mortgage company also owned RateAlert.com. And that's where I cut my teeth on digital marketing with the idea. I helped him take RateAlert.com and I launched it. Because at that time, the only MBS service out there was Mortgage Market Guide. And so he had this product and he's like, hey, I won't give you the total backstory, but he's like, hey, help me grow this thing. So we grew it. And I started to realize that you could take this digital marketplace, this digital environment, and as an originator, the things were changing. Like when I had been closing loans in 2005, 2006, having a website, and your name on it, it was just like a kind of a cool thing. Like, hey, check out my website, and it had your phone number. And I watched this evolution in the early, part of 2010 into, going into the rest of that decade, where as originators, we were starting to get business from people finding us online. Not that you would say to somebody on your business card, go see my website, but they would actually find you. And so as a director of business development, I was helping about 300 originators to, generate more business compliantly. And I had to deal with compliance and all that stuff. So I know more about UDAP and Reg Z and Reg N and all that stuff than half the compliance teams out there, all the fun stuff. And that's what drove me out of that part of the business. Was in 2014, I was tired of meetings. I was tired of red tape. I had to work on Encompass and it was just, I was tired of all that. And I said, you know what? I'm done with this. And I actually walked away and I started Originator Success. And Originator Success, originally, I was like, I'm just going to take and I'm going to teach originators how to go out and do digital marketing. I'm going to teach them to do Facebook ads, which back then was so easy and so cool. And I'm going to teach them about landing pages. So I'm all excited and I come up with this thing and you know, I get 5 people that knew me from Rate Alert, because at the time that's what makes my talent stack, I call it, so unique. I wrote loans for a decade. I was an executive for 4.5 years. I ran ratealert.com for about 5 years. And so I bring all these different unique views of the industry to the table. And I was all excited. All these people knew me from Rate Alert, and I had 5 people that paid me $3,000 a piece. And we were going to run 8 webinars for 8 weeks. And I was going to, you know, help them to build their stuff out. By week 3, guess how many of them had done any of the work?
0.
Yeah, 0. And I was depressed because I'm like, I know people will pay me, but they're not getting any of the results. They're not getting any of the work done. So I'm like, how do I pivot? How do I help these people get results? Because at the end of the day, you're not just there to make money. You want to sleep at night knowing that you've got a good product and that people are getting results. So that evolved, and our first evolution was what we called lead funnel automation. And we set up 3 landing pages for them. And we actually gave them ads to run. And that got us better results. More people would run the ads and they would get some results. And back then, it's so different than it is now. Back then, you could just put any kind of an ad in, you know, and it didn't have to be the best ad copy. You could just put an ad in and you had landing pages that would convert at like a 40% rate. You were getting all these leads, and they were usually better leads than what you find today. And anyway, you know, but half the people didn't even bother to do that. So we're like, okay, we can still do better. And what was happening is we kept kind of adding little elements. So then we were doing websites. We were adding websites to that piece because this was back in 2014, 15. What we noticed is most mortgage companies had not pivoted to mobile optimized websites. They didn't have websites that looked good on a phone.
Right.
And we were finding that was the phone revolution really began in earnest in 2014, 2015, where everybody started using their phone. So we're like, okay, we're going to help people. If they buy our product, our service here, we're going to give them a free website. And we found the websites were converting better than the funnels. So then we started chasing the websites. And then what we found was I got approached by Doran Aldana, of all people, back in the day. And he wanted me to sell my testimonial engine. He wanted me to be an affiliate for it. And it was a review system. And he really did sell me on the idea of helping our people get reviews. I just didn't want to necessarily need to partner with him to do it. So we explored, how do we help people get reviews? Because online reviews were important, but they weren't a big deal. You know, Amazon wasn't new, but it was bigger. I mean, I used it a lot, and you were used to the 5 stars, but everybody didn't go to Google, because back then, 5 years ago, Google My Business wasn't a thing yet. So there's your first tidbit for everybody, is that if you're an originator out there, you have to have a Google My Business presence. That is the foundation of being found on Google, is a Google My Business presence.
Hammer, you make me, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. You make me so happy, because when I do talk to customers about it, you know, when we've got it's an easy little campaign that drives reviews, but I'm sure it's nothing like you do. And I tell them all the time, they're like, well, Kevin, where would you get reviews from? And I think I'm a really good person to ask. You know why? Because I'm not a lender. I don't think like lenders. I'm a borrower. I've done 2 loans in the past 6 months. I'm the person you want to reach. I'm the person that's going to Google your business. My wife's going to Google your business. I go to Yelp for a cup of coffee. I go to Zillow to find a house and a real estate agent. I have no idea what social survey is, and I've been in the business for 2 years. No offense to anybody in social survey. Like, I think of where I'm going to find your business is Google first and Facebook second. And I have so many of these guys, well, you wouldn't do social survey. I'm like, nobody outside the industry even knows what social survey really is. No offense to them. Gotta go to the Google, gotta go to the places where people like me are going to look you up.
What we found, though, is we had all these different components, and we had reviews, and we did websites, and we were doing the landing pages. And we, you know, one time we were doing a lot with Facebook ads. And since then, we just simplified. We looked at what was best for, how do we provide what I call passive results. So as an originator, you want to remember that there is the ability today that wasn't there back when I wrote loans 20 years ago. Man, it kills me to say 20 years ago. But that is having your best resource can actually be the internet, and you don't have to be tremendously active on that. And having a system like Whiteboard, where once you've generated those contacts and those leads, you can put them in something where you stay on top of them automatically. You have that value in place where you can create these passive systems and automatic systems that you have a source of bringing you these contacts, and then you have a way of staying in touch with them. And especially what I love about you guys is it uses text messaging, which is a very valuable one, but it still uses email, and people get down on email. Email still works really well. Absolutely. So what we found is we found that kind of that secret formula of what worked really well, which is the first thing is being found. So that it's having a Google My Business. And we also found that you want to dial in Facebook and LinkedIn because you get your best SEO push from those two platforms because of the size of the platforms. So we call them breadcrumbs, which brings everybody to, your website. And your website is that second piece we found really matters, that it has to have the right setup for conversion. And it isn't a landing page collecting information. It's not asking zip code and are you this and that and the other thing. What really works for organic traffic is having a lot of those reviews and a lot of that positive story on your page. And your website needs to be a sales page, because somebody is finding you on the internet and then they're coming to the website, and that's your chance. That's your kind of your stage rehearsal there. That's your chance for them to see what you're about without talking to you. And the best thing to do is let your consumers do the talking, putting the reviews on there and having widgets for that kind of stuff. And then once they're on the website, utilize the technology and the platforms that's available, like Facebook Messenger. We see a ton of people go through Facebook Messenger. We have that widget on our website, and it actually performs very well. And then once they've collected these people, now they want to be remembered. So that's where Whiteboard comes in, and they're able to go ahead and, just stay in front of these people that may not be ready instantaneously, but they're able to build that equity in having, a list of people that will eventually make a move, and they're able to keep them warm and build a relationship and a rapport with them.
And you learned your lessons from all the way back when you first started, in the fact that you're building it out for them. You're not asking that LO to do that for you. You're saying, hey, give me the data, give me what you want to see, and I'll mold it for you, set it and forget it, right?
Right. So for what we do is anybody that joins up with us, we put them onto a 90-minute onboarding call, and they basically get to eat popcorn and watch us do all the work. And we get them on that call so that we can ask them questions and make sure we're getting everything dialed in the best way for their business, whether they're a broker, whether they're an originator for a larger company, whatever it may be. And we're going to set everything up with that Google My Business. If they have it already, we're going to optimize it. There's a lot you can do, and that's the advantage of us only working with mortgage people for years and years, is we get to just, instead of trying to figure it out myself with one or two, I get to look at this over hundreds. So when we see something that's working, we're able to incorporate it across everybody. We're able to test things. We're going to do things on these websites. We're going to do something different on this website. We see what works better, and then we improve. So anyway, we bring people on, we set everything up for them, and we help them to get it dialed in so that they're going to rank in their local market, because that's where the cell phone and everything's really changed. And with Google, it's become a localized market. And I never had that advantage as an originator. When I was around, years ago, if you tried to advertise online, you had to think nationally, and you were competing against national companies. And being licensed in New Jersey and New York and Pennsylvania, like I didn't want business in California. But now you can hyper focus it, and Google will give you that business just in your area. And that's the huge advantage to that. So we set it all up. We help them to generate the reviews. We get their past client database. We put them in our campaigns like you would in Whiteboard to get them and start generating those reviews. And we build their websites, and all that stuff kind of comes together to help them get organic search traffic. And I call it passive results. What I love about what we do is it's even when people say to me, Hammer, I don't log in, I'm not using it. And you go, well, what aren't you using? We're doing all the work for you. That's kind of, so just like with a Whiteboard where it's doing the work behind the scenes when they're busy, we try to do that in their branding and in their online reputation.
I love hearing that, and it's so indicative of what's going on in the market right now. Is that we deal with some of the same challenges here. Is that we know our LOs are as busy as they've ever been, but with just a little focus and a little time on the front end to get through that traffic jam, to spend that 90 minutes with you, to spend a few coaching calls with us, is we can relieve so much off your plate and so much time off your plate and give it back into you so you can do what you're built to do as a loan officer. And that's have that one-to-one relationship with that client to truly be the advisor and help them advance their business. I will say this, Hammer, I think it's really cool what you're doing. Like I said, the folks that I talk to that use your product are really excited about it, and it's doing great things for them. So I thought it would be great to have you on today. But I heard two great things today from you. And the one I think we kind of missed it a little bit. And we're getting back to these LOs are busy. I know you guys are all out there. If you're still listening, please. I know you're struggling to find people. You're out there looking. Good Lord. We see a guy who's a vacuum cleaner salesman who, like, you made Mark a whole bunch of money for a long time there, Hammer. Take the blinders off so you don't have to have any loan experience to be an LOA. And this is a guy, I've never originated a day in my life, but I live this in my business. I don't believe you have to have software experience to come work for me. I didn't have any software experience before I came to Whiteboard. We've tripled our sales since I've been here. You've got to find people for the right roles. And if you need an LOA that can be detail oriented and help you, find somebody who's detail oriented that doesn't have loan experience. Because if they got loan experience, everybody and your brother's knocking on their door. And last but not least, man, you do it for the folks. You take care of them. They will spend an hour and a half with you, and then the passive work that you guys do, that's incredible to drive business. And we know that, hey, rates are going to change. You got to change how you do things in 2021. We know they're going to go up. I think someone using your systems is a great advantage to get themselves ahead of the curve. Hammer, thank you so much for your time today. Any tidbits, anything you'd like to leave us with, or if folks want to find you, how do they find you? That's a great way.
Best way to find us is go to our website, www.OriginatorSuccess.com. They can schedule a demo there, find out everything that we talked about today, as well as things that we do like auto posting on their social media and some different campaigns that we have for staying in front of real estate agents with that kind of a thing, and past clients as well. So definitely they can find us at our website and schedule a demo.
Hammer, thanks again so much, man. I hope to see you soon. Hopefully the world changes and frees us up a little bit that we can go to a conference here in the near future. But thanks again so much, bud, and you take care.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Take care, man.